On this episode of Cinema Disaster, we're going to be talking about the 1992 Peter Jackson film Dead Alive. Now, this movie was originally released under the name Braindead, but when it was released in North America, they released it under the name of Dead Alive. It's pretty common when it comes to foreign market films for them to change films. I know, like, The Beyond is also called Seven Doors of Death, and I don't know, there's just numerous occasions like that. Peter Jackson did a film called Bad Taste, which you can see here on my shirt, which is about puke-eating aliens. It took him, I'm not sure, several years, I think, to complete that film, because at that time, he was still an independent filmmaker, and all the members of the film crew they had regular 9-to-5 jobs, so they couldn't film on like a regular basis. But it was all shot in New Zealand. And once again, like I said, it's about puke-eating aliens. Peter Jackson did a film next after that, which is called Meet the Feebles, which is basically, it's a puppet film about a bunch of puppets who have sex and do a bunch of drugs. I mean, obviously there's more to it than that, but that kind of sums it up. Peter Jackson has definitely kind of a strange sense of humor, a dark sense of humor, but it's definitely, all of his movies, his early films anyway, are a lot of fun. Peter Jackson, as you know, went on to do The Frighteners, as well as a movie called Heavenly Creatures. Everything he did after Heavenly Creatures, I think that was really the movie that kind of got him recognized as being more of a serious filmmaker, because eventually, you know, he became the director for the Lord of the Rings movies, all the Hobbit films, and The Lovely Bones, as well as the remake of King Kong, which Jackson himself has cited King Kong as being his favorite film of all time. He actually did a short film remake of it when he was, like, I think 12 years old, maybe. But, you know, obviously the one with Jack Black that he did. So I'm sure that was a big thrill for him, getting to remake his favorite film. So he's a big name in Hollywood now. And back when I discovered Jackson when I was in high school, I never, ever would have guessed that he would have went on to mainstream success. As a matter of fact, I used to use Dead Alive to get rid of unwanted house guests. I had kind of a list of movies that I did that with. John Waters' Pink Flamingos, that always used to do the trick pretty well. They would leave pretty quickly and then they would never come back. Dead Alive had that effect too, because it starts off on Skull Island, which, if I remember correctly, that's also where in the movie King Kong takes place on Skull Island. So that was probably a throwback to that film. And there's these rat monkeys. There's these people there that capture a rat monkey. And if you get bit by it, then you get like this, it's sort of I don't know if it's a disease or an infection, but it turns you into a zombie. So this movie it's a zombie film, but it's also a splatter movie. So it's very, very gory. And they bring the rat monkey back to America, and there's a lonely guy that is living with his mom, and he starts getting involved with this Spanish girl, and his mom is like I would say she's very, very toxic, bad. She's a bad person, basically, and she ends up getting bit by the rat monkey, which causes her to start transforming into the undead, or I guess, she's dead alive. And there's lots of gross out scenes and gross out humor in this film. There's a famous scene where the main character just completely mows through a whole house full of zombies with a lawnmower. And it's one of the goriest scenes I've ever seen in a film in my life. There's a scene where his mom's ear falls off into this pudding that they're eating at dinner, and she ends up eating her own ear. Lots of weird stuff like that. But there's a priest in the film. I think probably the most famous line in this movie is, "I kick ass for the Lord," because there's a priest that fights these zombies using martial arts. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely it's a really gory, over-the-top film. I mean, when the blood splatters, it's completely unrealistic. There's no way the human body could hold that much blood. But if you want to see Jackson's early work, if you've only heard of him through Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or Lovely Bones or whatnot, I would suggest going back and looking at his old catalog. I would definitely start with Dead Alive. No Bad Taste in Meet the Feebles should definitely be on your list too. And if there's anybody you hate in your life, you should absolutely show this to them. And if they probably will never talk to you again. That's probably also why I'm still single, because I always show these films to people that I date or go on dates with, and I think that probably explains a lot. I also want to address the name of my show, Cinema Disaster. I've been getting a lot of questions about people misunderstanding the name. People have been thinking that the movies that I'm reviewing, I consider them to be disasters, which I don't. I mean, I'm not a movie critic. I'm not a professional. I mean, I only talk about movies that I'm into. So just because I like to rant about stuff that nobody cares about. I mean, the one person watching this probably knows that pretty well. Anyway, the name Cinema Disaster came from the idea that my show is a disaster, that I'm not a professional filmmaker. And it's a basic way of saying that my show sucks. It's a crack at myself and my own movie critique ability, which I have zero. But some of you people still watch, and I'm grateful for that. But definitely, if you want to see a lot of gore, a lot of humor, a lot of gross out stuff, and it's a great date movie. And Dead Alive, check it out. Peter Jackson filmed on location in New Zealand. I'll be coming back soon, or maybe not so soon. It just depends on when I feel like doing these. But check this stuff out. Check out Bad Taste. Check out Meet the Feebles. And until next time, keep watching.